I know men who are not men who would attack or be emotionally coercive or abusive or would not send dick pics, but they need to be talking to their friends because...
We asked our online community for open questions on gender-based violence. 4 women came today to share their perspectives.
So I suppose the rhetoric of all men, why do you think it's considered bad messaging since good men experience violence too?
What's the start with that?
I think when it comes to social media, when I've seen the not all men trending, it's been as a quick reaction to like women have started telling their stories on social media. So I think the problem with that is taking away that limelight, that women are like being brave to share the instances, and straight away there's like, I don't know, like some men do feel attacked with that even though it has nothing to do with them. The woman is not talking about them or anything like that. They're just giving a general overview of it. So I think sometimes, like it's the same way we've seen it from Black Lives Matter to All Lives Matter. People just, once you're concentrating on one thing, they want to be like, well, not everyone is like that. So that's why rhetoric like not all men is there. But I do think it is a harmful thing to like when you're talking about violence against women, to just be like, yeah, it's like all men are trash or anything like that, because that's dangerous, because we should have people in our lives like which are men, which are not like that. So you can have those healthy conversations and talk about things like uncomfortable conversations like that.
It's like really, I don't know, I think it's easy on both sides. On the side of people who are, you know, at danger of being attacked and stuff, to be really reductive and to, like on both sides it's a problem. The whole not all men thing is reductive because it's suggesting that women are attacking men by talking about their experiences. Mm-hmm. And then on the other side, it is reductive to suggest, as you say, that all men are trash, because it's like...
Because they are.
No, because like, you know, it's... we obviously, all of us have men in our lives that we love and respect and that we know love and respect us. So while it's easy and satisfying sometimes to just say, oh, all people of this specific grouping are awful, it doesn't help anyone, it doesn't further the dialogue.
My name is Emma Langford. I'm a singer, songwriter and a performer, and I'm an accidental activist. Just through speaking out about different issues and stuff and being quite active online when I talk about different issues, I've wound up being quite involved in different causes, and really, really glad to be. And I came here today because I think it's an important conversation to have, and it's a great conversation to have with a wide number of people from different walks of life, and this was a great opportunity to do that.
Yeah, I think like I was having this conversation with someone, and her way of explaining that the not all men thing is like, okay, if somebody presented you loads of sweets and they said one of those sweets will kill you, you're going to be like, I'm not eating any of those sweets. So it's really important for like when men are starting to have the conversation, I think of like understanding the not all men thing is that like we know that not all men are dangerous, not all men are going to attack you, but there's always this thing in the back of your head that like, but they could, do you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's just, yeah, we're having the conversation that, yeah, we know not all men are bad and things like that, but it's having conversations within men to say that, okay, we need to change our behaviour, we need to do things, but it's really hard to engage sometimes with young men and having them understand, because we live in a patriarchal society, having them understand the hardships that women go through. Like, what was it? I think you were talking about it, Emma, with the Blind Boy podcast, where he was talking about like, he was talking about his experiences of feeling like nervous in front of, like walking in front of men. So imagine feeling like a woman being in front of men, like walking across the street. It's amplified basically. So I think like men need to hone into those experiences where they felt like a bit unsafe, usually around other men, and then think of that times 100. That's how they can probably, I guess, empathize with it. Yeah.
My name is Mamobo Ogoro. I am 25 years old. I'm Nigerian Irish, and I'm the founder of Gorm Media. So I'm here because I'm here. And I think this conversation is really important because a lot of times as young girls, we're actually taught to protect ourselves. There's always so much concern around us, and there's not really open conversation as to why we always have to do that stuff. And I think it's about time that, especially as women in Ireland, we need to be having open conversations with people of different backgrounds regarding really hard-hitting topics like this. So it's about time to have these conversations.
I even think like the whole conversation about like how I can't talk about like my experience without being like, oh, but not my boyfriend or my little brothers or my dad. The way women can talk about the experiences without acknowledging men, I think that's even an issue as well, because you should just be able to talk about it and know that like, yeah, not all men, but I think the fact that like society kind of forces you to say it in regards, that can be a bit discouraging. So like, and that's something that I found like where like I have to justify it being like, yeah, but they're fine, but everyone else is wrong. But I'm like, that's not how it is, because again, I'm being too general. So where like I should be able to talk about my own experience in its own unique, singular narrative without bringing men into the conversation, you know?
Hi, my name is Sindrina Wasindahiro, and I'm a third-year PhD student in UL, and I'm a writer, filmmaker, and as I'm an accidental activist. And I came here today because I think it's a vital conversation that it's been normalized in society, and we really need to keep the conversation going, and what better way to do it with diverse women talking about the issue.
Have you had any experiences when it comes to police and emergency services in terms of bad practices and how they've attended a female victim, for example?
Not personally. When it comes, I've heard of stories of police and not attending to complaints of harassment. So if the idea is like if there's no tangible violence, then it's kind of just like put off to the side.
Yeah.
But oftentimes it's the harassment that leads to the violent behavior, and that needs to be caught on quickly. And even just in police, like even in online spaces as well, unless there's like full evidence of the violence and things like that, then it's just like not taken as seriously, if you get what I mean. I've had experiences of people, like I remember one time on my holidays in Dubai, I was in a hotel, and in that hotel there was like a pool area, and there was like this group of men in the other side in the pool, and I think they were like French or something, and thank God it was my last night in the hotel because it would have been awful. But we were just at the pool enjoying ourselves. I was feeling myself. I looked great. But they managed to find me on Instagram, I think, for the location, because now I don't know locations no more. But they found me on Instagram, put the location, and I think it was for the location because I was posting. And then they started to send me just harassment voice notes, messages in French. And I didn't know what it was, so I sent it to my friends who are French, and they were like, I don't want to translate it for you. And they were like, are you still in the hotel? You need to report that to the hotel. But eventually found out what the translation was, and it was very vulgar sexual things that they wanted to do to me, and calling me names of animals and things like that. And I tried to report that to Instagram for like over the next few weeks, but there was nothing, absolutely nothing. And my friend was just like, just block everything that these people are doing. But it was like, obviously I'm not going to see those people ever again, but you need to report it so the accounts can just be closed, because those people don't deserve to be in those kind of spaces, especially where they're young women on those spaces. So it's this idea, just like, we need to be aware of the pre-harassment or the quote-unquote violence, the pre-physical act, because like there's this thing that it's not violence until you actually see someone not beat up, but see someone actually physically hurt. Like, have you ever seen the series Made?
Yeah. Oh, with the emotional abuse, yeah.
Emotional abuse, yeah. It's
like that's the first step, yeah.
It's basically that, and they didn't believe her because she wasn't physically hurt or anything. So it's just, yeah, that's my opinion on that.
Like 3 weeks ago, I was at 201 and opium with my friends, and then on the way home, we were just by one side of a concert, say like around the Chippy Chicken side, and then across the road it's like AIB. So there was two lads there, and they were looking over at us, and then I don't know why, but I just waved. I just waved at everyone and everything. I can even wave to the wall or whatever, but you know. And anyway, so they're like, come over here, and we're like, oh, like this. We just kept walking, whatever. Then they crossed the street and they started walking right behind us, like maybe like at least maybe 2-3 car lengths behind us or whatever. And then my car is parked up around one corner of the street, so me and my friends, we walked up that corner, and they stood at that corner as we walked to my car. As soon as we got in my car, they were still there. When I drove away, they started walking back the way they came from. So they didn't keep them going straight, they literally just turned around and walked back the way, back into town. So I just thought that was so weird.
Hi, I'm Olivia. I'm 26. I am originally from Kerry, but been living in Limerick for the past 7, 8, 9 years. Can't remember how long. It's been a while. I am a leisure attendant here, so I'm a lifeguard, fitness instructor and swim teacher in a leisure centre here in the city. The reason why I'm here today is because Sandrine, the hero, thought it'd be a good idea to bring me along just to hear what different people have to say about different things based on the topics that were discussed today.
So, have you any thoughts on positioning of women as men's sisters, mothers, and just or as their relationship to men to gain support for them?
Ties in really well with what we're talking about already, because it's that idea that, well, yeah, it has to be in your world and in your life to have a connection to it and to realize the drastic impact that these have on people. And there's a couple of different arguments around it. Like there's we have to stop like turning women into like the belongings of men, or the belongings of, by calling them, you have to understand the horribleness of this because they could be your sister, or they could be your mother. And yeah, we shouldn't have to explain it that way. But like, I've even had to explain it that way to women. Like, it's not just men I've had to like rationalize things to in that way. It's women too, and it's never, for me, in my experience, and I know it is in some people's experience, in my experience, it's never been you could own this woman and they could be damaged. It's more, it's just bringing it home to someone and making them realize that this isn't a hypothetical out there thing that happens in another universe. It happens in our society to people that we might know, or we might work with, or might serve us in the shop, and there's someone who could be attacked and killed and not be in your life anymore. And that's my understanding of it. I understand the other side of it as well, but for me, that's where I would understand making that connection.
Yeah, no, I've seen the post before, like she was someone's mother or sister, but like it's scratched out as like she's someone. So I agree with that. Like you don't have to like be related to all these different people. You're a human being. And I think like when we do like normalize it in regards to like, oh, she's someone's sister, it's like, oh, but like, so he won't be violent against like his own sister, but like another woman, you know? So it's like you're still kind of creating that, you're kind of creating that normalcy by being like, okay, like the mother, the sister, the girlfriend, and again, it's always going to be related to a guy, but it's like, it's someone, it's a human being, like it's violence against a human being. And I think I agree with that, like when it's just like she's someone, because I don't know, that would be my thing. I'm just like, she's just someone, because I think by doing that, we're like, you normalize it being like, oh, but not you, because you have a girlfriend. But I'm like, that's where like, violence can happen in those spaces as well.
Yeah.
So it's just normalizing it, being like, it's a human being, and like, yeah.
I think it's hard. I agree with you, Sandrine, in terms of like, we should kind of hone into the fact that this was just another human life. She's not just your sister, your cousin, your mammy, whatever. Mm-hmm. It's another human life. But then in the other end of the spectrum, in order for what Emma was saying, like in order for people to care sometimes, that like you need to kind of bring it home for them to think about their quote-unquote sister, cousin, mammy, or whatever. Like I was talking to this with my supervisor previously, and we were talking about like so my research around like social justice and things like that. So we were talking about like the way people care for in the media surrounding like social justice issues, and we were talking about how when you generally look at like the humanity element of things, it's not as sexy when you look at it, but when you look at it in terms of just like, let's say, the racialized thing, or looking at it as their like sister or their brother, or she was a school teacher and things like that, it makes people like zealous or want to move, and it puts emotions into people. But when you just say it's another human being, they may think of it as like, okay, it's someone in, I don't know, South Africa that I would never think of or never touch in my life. So it's kind of striking that balance between the two of them. Like I'm one of those people that it's like it's a human life, and that should be regarded, that should be held tight. But at the end of the day, human beings, we only care about what's happening in our immediate circles, and sometimes we need to relate it to, in order to explain it to people, we need to relate it to what they already know. So their mother, their sister, their cousin, and because again, we're self-centered too as well.
Yeah.
No, like I do, like I understand what you're, like with the point you're saying, like, yeah, you do have to like normalize it in that regards to be like, well, you wouldn't do that to your sister, you wouldn't do that to your mom. But then again, it's like, okay, if they didn't have those women in their lives, does that justify like, the way they act? Because again, like it's an over-assumption that everyone has like that woman figure in their lives or stuff like that. So I don't know, like that's where I'm always like, you shouldn't need to know, I don't know, like let's say with my boyfriend, like he shouldn't need to know me and to like me being his girlfriend for him not to be like violent against women. Like I shouldn't be like the scapegoat. He should just be like that as a human being. So that's where like again I'm always confused with that term, but I understand it because like yeah, you do have to generalize and again be able to connect with it. But then my thing is like, but what about those people who don't have those positive figureheads that say like with the mother, their cousin, anything like that? I don't know, like what argument do we make for them?
It's like, but I feel like it's like a bigger thing that like, the way I've always understood it isn't that like, it's not that, like if I hear of someone being attacked and I was told, oh, they could be your fiance, they could be your brother, they could be your dad. I don't have brothers, so, there's different things in there that I wouldn't connect with, but it's more, they could be someone in your life. It's more that kind of broader thing, because when something is so huge, like what happened with Aisling was so huge, there were so many factors to it. There was the time she was attacked, where she was attacked, and then all the different elements that made her who she was. And for me, like, it was what I connected to with it was as much the banal everyday circumstances in which she was attacked, which was ludicrous in its own right, but also definitely for me what really struck me was how likely it was that I could have known her. It wasn't that I could have owned her or she could have been someone belonging to me, but it came home to me because there was a real, I don't know, it was that for me as much as anything else. There was the horror of what happened, and then there was someone I know and love could be next.
Yeah, I understand.
Because of that. And I don't know, if it affected me like that, based on that, I have to imagine that for anyone else, any men out there who maybe didn't fully understand the gravity of what happened, making them realize that it could have been someone they know and not a stranger in the face of all of this huge, overwhelming issue and circumstance, just bringing it down to someone you know could have been attacked and killed because of these other huge issues that come into it. That's kind of how I understand it, but I still always get pissed off whenever I hear like, oh, but I could have owned that woman, and damn it, that's awful. I guess I get both sides of it, but I'm always trying to see the benefits of that kind of thinking as well, because if it does prevent someone from thinking of women that way, then great, amazing, if that's what it needs.
I'm just kind of thinking of this like the next steps for the future, I guess, but like how do we solve the problem? And I know we kind of like we're speaking on camera of just like the way we scapegoat in terms of like the murderer in this case, and of how like people were talking about him as foreign and things like that. But like, how do we effectively, and this is a hard question and I'm not gonna have the answers, but like how do we solve this problem or move forward and together as well with men as well? Like how?
Well, I think everyone needs to take responsibility. Like women have taken women and vulnerable people in general have taken responsibility for this issue for forever. It's always been our responsibility to be safer, to dress more conservatively, to not talk to someone you don't know, to not be overly friendly, not give them the wrong idea. Like as a teenager, I always gave people the wrong idea by just being friendly, and wound up like having the woes of the world dropped on me by largely men. And I think for a very long time, we as vulnerable people have always taken that responsibility of the safety of people. We need the people who are doing most of the attacking, let's say, to take on accountability, responsibility, and the onus of having those conversations. Like, if you're going to be, like, I know men who are not men who would attack or be emotionally coercive or abusive or would not send dick pics, but they need to be talking to their friends, because one man in their group of guy friends is that one guy who does send dick pics and will attack someone or might rape someone, you know, or step over the line somehow because they never had that conversation with someone, which we've had since we were kids. We've had that conversation since we were kids of like, be safe, text us when you're on your way home, all this kind of stuff. They don't know that that coded behavior goes on among us, between us and our parents, us and our mothers, us and our sisters. And I just think the buck needs to be passed to those people.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think for me, it'd be like, go into your group chat and like search, text me when you're home. And if you can't see that, then that's where you have that conversation. Because I think, like, as you said, it's been instilled in us for so long that any new friend that you make, it's like, oh yeah, just text me when you're home, text me when you're home. And I've had the conversation with guys, I'm like, do you guys do that? No. And I'm like, that's the problem. It's because, ask yourself, like, why do we not do that? Like, why do I feel safe? Or like my mom or my dad, anyone has never told me to be safe on a night out. But my sister or my cousin, anyone, like, they've stated to them. And I think that's where you started. But I think it's also like educating everyone on it, because I still think like that's where like the whole not all men and the fact that we can't all even like agree with what's wrong with it. There isn't like a lot of dialogue about it, and like that's why, like I was saying before, like I don't know much about it to be like able to go from one side to another. But for me, like whenever with stuff like that, I've talked to the men in my life, and I'm like, if I can make them see it from my perspective, then I don't need to convince everyone else. But again, it's up to those men in my life then to go out and like say to the other people as well. But I think like that's where I would say, because it's not a fair thing that women are always having these conversations, and we've become so normalized to them that, as I say, like in our group chat, it's like anytime, even if you're walking to the shop, or like again, like if you're in a taxi, take a picture of the taxi man's reg number and you send it into your group chat, like you're turning on your live location. It's like do guys do that as well? And if they don't, it's like just being aware that they don't, like, those spaces are safe for them and are not safe for other people. And I think just by being uncomfortable with that and like talking about it, I think that's the way forward to it, because we've had to do it and it's an uncomfortable thing for us. But again, it's just normalized, you know.
Say when it comes to like the term "don't talk to strangers," probably the first thing in your head is the stranger is going to be a male rather than a female. So like that's just always like instilled, don't talk to strangers, whatever, because like, you know, they can literally just pick you up in a white van and drive off in the middle of nowhere. I'll just take this bag of sweets, you know. But I think we just need to like educate everyone in that sense, not like all male, not all female, just everyone in general, just so that like it'd be like a much more of a safer space in the whole world, especially on social media. Like social media is supposed to be one of those like safe space for people to be creative or whatever. There's always like backlash of just people who just always just add in their 2 cents where they don't really need to add in their 2 cents at all. So I think just like people just need to like own up as well at the same time, and like just respect other people the way they respect their mom, their dad, their brother, their sister.
Yeah, I think a lot of I'd agree with you there in terms of education and educating children as well. I think a lot of men need to listen, actively listen, and not just say, oh yeah, I don't do that, but actively be open to combating when they see the other men do it. So funnily enough, a man will respect another man's opinion rather than a woman's opinion.
Yeah.
So generally speaking. So it is on the onus of a lot of men to say, actually, what you're doing is not on, that is not sound, that is not cool, what are you doing, bro? So I think the actively listening and being open to combating those behaviors is something that we can do
Yeah. So thank you so much, guys, for
Thank you.
the conversation. This was really great. I'm so happy that you could be here today to have it.
I feel like we
thank you.
fixed sexism.
We did.
Yeah,
Here we go.
Definitely.
The world is safe now.
Yeah. It just takes conversation. That's all that it is. Like with what we had there now, like that's all. Like it's a free thing to do. It's just a conversation.